Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Roberts. Welcome to the August 28th edition of Effective, Efficient, Affordable, and above all, accountable to you, the show that asks, do you have any idea how scary the reval is going to be? We are joined this evening once again by John Gallagher. John, welcome.
Thank you, James.
The main topic of this evening's show, once again, will be the reval. This is the most serious issue that we face. Everything that we've talked about vis-a-vis the budget has been about 1 or 2 mils. When we start talking about the reval, we are talking about 10, 15 mils. We are talking about a problem orders of magnitude greater. We're talking about tax rates up 25% town-wide. We are talking about Highland Lake properties facing 50 and 100% increases in taxation. The reval is a huge, huge problem. Your selectmen aren't talking about it. No one is talking about it. You need to understand it, because you cannot vote for a budget, whatever budget you want to vote for, without putting it in the context of the reval, without putting it in the context of what will be the most successful business killer that Winsted has ever seen. But before we get to the gory details, quick reminder on the budget.
The budget goes to vote on September 8th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Pearson School. You have the ability to vote if you are a registered voter or a property owner of $1,000 or more. You can go to the town clerk if you will not be available on Saturday, September 8th. You can ask for an absentee ballot application. You can fill it out in the town clerk's office. You can then ask for the ballot. You can go in the back room and fill the ballot out and turn it in. So if you're here any day of the week, go get your ballot at the town clerk's office. It's Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Yep. And on Thursday, it goes to 7, I believe. 7, I believe. So the late night this week and next week is Thursday to 7 p.m. We're getting to the point now where if you try to do it by mail, you may or may not get the ballot in time to actually have it received to be counted. So you're right at that critical mark now. The best way to do it, once again, is to go down to the town clerk's office, get the absentee ballot application, then ask for the ballot after you fill the application out and vote right then and there.
And we will be voting no. We will be voting no because this budget, once again, includes a tax increase that does nothing to solve the very real problems that Winsted faces. It does not address any of the structural issues that we have, the issues of the reval that we'll be touching on today, the issues of our benefit structures, the issues of our staffing, the issues of our use of our town assets. It solves none of these problems which must be addressed, must be acknowledged. And for that reason, we will be voting no for what would be the second out of 3 tax increases in 3 years.
Let's get to the reval. The reval happens every 5 years. This is our reval year, and everything comes to a head December 1st. That's when the data for the previous October 1st grand list is due, and that will be the taxable grand list not for this year, but for next year. So you will be seeing those results trickle out at the end of November, and they are due for everybody by the 1st of December. And the reval company for the town of Winchester is Vision Appraisal. But let's just talk a little bit about what we're seeing statewide. We have 10, 11 towns here. We see Fairfield, which had its grand list decreased 20%, and Fairfield is down in Fairfield County. And they did pass a budget, and the budget was lower. It went up, the mill rate went up 16.6%. Trumbull, also on the Gold Coast, the grand list went down 21.5%, and the mill rate went up 20%. Shelton, once again, is down 16%. The mill rate increased about 20%. Colchester, flat. Grand list down 15%, mill rate up 15%. Woodstock down 20%, mill rate up 18%. So these are the towns that have passed budgets, and they had their reval cycle this past year, and they are now coming in with reduced grand lists, and they're seeing the mill rate flip. Okay, you don't see that in other states, because other states, when your property declines, It's a fixed percentage of the property that the actual value of the property that they take, 1.25%, that gives you your tax bill. Here, government and municipalities and the state, whether your property increases or decreases, they pull it out of you.
And this has been a very contentious process. I mean, we don't want to give the impression that these towns have passed budgets with relative ease and relative speed. It has been highly contentious. Towns that are used to passing budgets in one or at most two go-rounds are now going through multiple go-rounds. And the debate is not about whether they have a tax increase, not even whether we should keep the budget flat. The debate has become, how much are we going to cut spending?
And let me give you some examples. Griswold had its grand list go down 15%, hasn't passed the budget. Jewett City down 19.5%, hasn't passed the budget. Colchester down 15%. They did just pass the budget about flat. Mill rate went up 15%. North Stonington has had three budget referendums. Their grand list has gone down 16%. They haven't passed the budget. Killingsworth down 13%, haven't passed the budget. And it gets back to, the other one, I think the big one that everybody's looking at is New London. And New London, they're kind of below their minimum budget requirement for education. What, 3.2 million?
3.2 million. And we're seeing conversations happen in town after town after town. Why do we have to keep funding this MBR? We can't afford it. It makes no sense. We have fewer kids. The schools are too expensive. We're not going to do it. New London is 3 million below their MBR. They have no intention of funding it. The state has taken over the school district and has concluded that they can't make the town actually come up with the MBR. There's nothing they can do to make the voters in New London come up with that money. And, there are all kinds of fireworks going off in New London. Just today, the special master threw the town officials out of the schools. Literally threw them out. Because the town wouldn't come up with the money. Because in town after town after town, people get it. When the grand list goes down, spending has to go down. You're seeing people coming up to town meetings saying, the value of my house is less. So you get less money to spend on your town stuff. We are seeing tax strikes. We are seeing people in normally very sedate towns showing up and picketing their officials. People at valuation firms are getting harangued in the street. I mean, this has become a problem statewide, largely stemming from the crash of 2008. But we in Winsted have our own particular flavor to impart to this, and we have issues surrounding this that are unique to us, and we will get into some of those as we proceed.
Before we go there, let's just understand that what the state has done to put the towns in this position, okay? There is a 1.5% interest charge on unpaid taxes and water and sewer bills. That's 18% per year. It has never gone down since it was implemented back in the late 70s, early 80s, when interest rates were 19-20%. That is now what towns use to balance their budget. It's usury.
Right.
Okay, the second thing is there was a special master that ruled that partially completed houses in Connecticut could not be taxed by state statute. Governor Malloy and the legislature changed that statute. Now tax assessors can go in and assess it on a partial completion basis, and the tax collector can collect taxes on that property. The last thing that came along is Fairfield, Stamford, Norwich, New Britain put a piece of legislation in. The legislature passed it to defer their revals. Both the Senate and the House, and Governor Malloy vetoed it. He then came back with this this idea that they put into law to let towns phase in revals on a 5-year basis, 20% per year, on decreasing grand lists. Well, the only thing that does is crush the properties that have lost the most value.
And we'll walk through that math. But
and they stand up there and they tell you to your face that this is for you. We're doing this for you.
Right. I mean, this is basically loan sharking. Yeah, they're going to charge you high rates of interest. They're going to break your leg when you don't pay up. I mean, it's a bad thing.
I mean, if you were describing this to somebody, you would say that, this was mob related.
Yeah. And it's all because people don't seem to understand that they're supposed to live within their means. I mean, this is a very simple concept. You live within your means. We are not the federal government. We cannot go and borrow trillions of dollars from the Chinese. No one is going to bail out Winstead when it runs out of money. We need to live within our means. Every town in Connecticut needs to live within its means. Connecticut needs to live within its means. It's a very simple message.
Last thing before we get into Winstead is the Connecticut foreclosure backlog is posing another challenge to the recovery. It now takes 656 days for a bank to seize a home. Connecticut's foreclosure filings increased 139% in July from a year earlier, and the jump was only second to Vermont. So you're seeing it. The thing that's happening down in Fairfield County is the Greenwich Fairfield housing market has declined over 12%, and that's a crushing blow to the change in the economic structure on Wall Street and banking. And when you look at what revenue the state gets from the income tax, it all comes from Fairfield County.
Yep.
It doesn't come from anywhere else. So you're seeing a tremendous decline in revenue from income tax receipts in Fairfield County. They're not buying houses in Fairfield County. They're moving out of Fairfield County. And the second thing is you're seeing tremendous declines in revenue from the gaming industry. So if you think next year is going to be easy on a state level, it is not. And if you think you're going to get more money, you are not.
Life is only going to get more exciting in the coming months. But let's bring this back to Winstead. When we see Winstead's reval, we are going to see the results of a slow-moving catastrophe that has rolled through our neighborhoods and our commercial Main Street. We're going to see a grand list that is down. All the towns that we mentioned before, John gave you some numbers, those grand lists are down in the sort of 15 to 20% range. The preliminary analysis that John has performed thus far indicates that we are going to be at the high end of that range. We're going to be sort of in the 20% area.
But the thing is, and you're going to expound upon this, is not all properties are created equal. The downtown area, my area, my neighborhood, is down 40%. The values at the lake have held steady or are up in some cases on waterfront. So all properties are not created equal, and there is a big inequity when somebody says 20%. The grand list shift is the more value is now at the lake in Winchester, and you guys are going to pick up a whole lot more taxes.
As I say, there are properties around Highland Lake that will hit 100% tax increases. Scary, but true. And that's based on zero increase in spending. That's not the superintendent's new school. That's not even the current budget with its increase in spending. If you held the budget flat, you will see properties at Highland Lake with 100% tax increases. You'll see a lot of properties at Highland Lake with 50% tax increases.
Let me interject one thing right here. There is an article in the Sunday Republican, the 26th, and it lists the number of people on food stamps by municipality in the northwest corner. Winstead, the population they list is 11,242. 12% of the population is on food stamps. That's a 77% increase from 2009 to 2012. So an eighth of your residents in this town are on food stamps, and you want to increase taxes.
Yeah, I don't know who thought that the answer to unsustainably high taxes was increasing taxes further. But there are people apparently who believe that, and our Board of Selectmen seems to be big believers in that concept. But let's just break down some of the details on the Winstead situation. Grand list down 20%. If everyone had gone down together, if there were no inequalities as John describes them, that would mean we would still have to raise taxes, some 25%, just to raise the same amount of money. Think of it in these terms. If your grand list is 100 and it goes down to 80, if you still want to raise the same amount of money, if you still want to keep spending the same, you have to increase taxes. But once you fold in the fact that the lake is flat to up in certain instances, and the downtown and Main Street is down 40% in many instances, that changes the whole game. Assuming a flat budget, assuming zero increase in spending, what this means is that the lake and the business community, I'm not talking about the stores on Main Street, I'm talking about the general business community, will see their taxes go up in cash terms about 25%. That's across the board. Again, there will be examples of people with much higher increases. And certainly, if the Board of Selectmen keep with this idea that we need to increase spending rather than decrease spending, then all of these numbers are frankly low. The downtown neighborhoods will see their cash taxes go down by 25%, which may sound like a good deal, except if your value has gone down by 40%, you sort of expect to get a 40% reduction in your tax.
You get a 15% increase.
Yeah, that's not really that great a deal. Now, when you add on to that the mayor's fix, the governor's fix, which is this phased reval, it gets even worse. This is a way of disguising the fact that the taxes are going way up at the lake. And you disguise it by making them go up each and every year, independent of what you vote in the budget. But what it does is it crucifies the people downtown. The value of their homes drop dramatically. The value at which they're taxed doesn't. Now, we're going to put a piece of paper up with some numbers on it, which will hopefully bring this into some greater clarity, because we have the ability to confuse you no end. The top set of numbers on this piece of paper, if you can read them, are basically the situation that we have today. The lakes and the businesses, the downtown, our current tax rate produces $10,000 in this notional example. Scenario A is the reval, plain and simple. The lakes and the businesses hold their value. That's basically what is happening here in Winsted. The lakes and the business are basically flat. Downtown is down 40%. To keep the same amount of revenue, to be able to afford the same amount of spending, we have to increase the taxes on both lakes and business and downtown by 25%. So your mill rate goes from 25 to 31. And what that does is obviously increase taxes on the lake by 25%. We have just had a budget with a 10% increase fail. Do you think the lake residents are going to vote for a budget which increases their taxes by 25% for absolutely nothing? This assumes flat spending. Absolutely no change in the budget, and they still get a 25% tax increase. Not going to happen. No one's voting for that in a million years. If you get down to the bottom set of numbers, this is what Marianne's phase-in looks like. It's done an excellent job of disguising the tax increase at the lakes and the businesses. Up only 4%. Now, of course, that'll be 4% each and every year. And on top of next year's 4% will be whatever increase they bake into the budget next year. But look at what's happened to downtown. Their actual dollar taxes have gone down very modestly. But their mill rate has gone up by 60%. 60%, ladies and gentlemen. Downtown will be paying at a mill rate of 40 mils. Good luck to anyone who's trying to sell a house downtown with a 40 mil rate tax rate. Good luck to anyone who's running a commercial business, a rental business downtown.
Now, it's 40 mils because of the phase-in. The property is only worth $120,000 like in scenario A, but the phase-in only allows a 20% of that reduction from 200 down to 120 to be phased in. So that's where you get the 184. So the phase-in is 20% per year reduction, and they prop the value of the downtown property up to $184,000, and that's why you have a mill rate that is 40 mils.
What effectively is happening here is that the downtown taxpayers are paying the taxes of the lakes and business payers.
Right.
That's what's actually happening. They are subsidizing taxes. Now, if John wants to subsidize my taxes, I'm all in favor of that. But I do understand that John can't do that indefinitely.
But what happens is, the value of the house is actually $120,000, and, the operating margin for taxation is 1.25% of the assessed value. So, you should be in the $1,500 range, and you're up in the $792.
I mean, this is craziness. And if,
you're crushing the property. There's not enough. You're sucking all the value out of the property by the tax structure, and what you'll wind up with is Detroit.
Right.
Where people just walk away. And, you know, they just had the auction in Torrington. 6 of the 10 properties offered didn't sell.
Because, and this is an important point, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a static problem. Once you get into a situation like this, it magnifies, it feeds on itself. Property values go down, which forces tax up, which forces property values down. You know, if you live on a street where every third house, every fourth house is currently in foreclosure, that will become a street where every second house is vacant, which will become a street where at least one house is filled with squatters. And that's what happens in a situation where normal markets break down. In a normal market, prices are low, buyers come in, they force prices back up. This is not a normal market. This is a broken market. Downtown Winstead and Winstead's commercial Main Street is a broken market. As prices fall, people become even more spooked and prices fall even more.
Let me just interject here. In the Saturday, I believe it was a Register Citizen. Yeah, Register Citizen, 8/24/12. The Town of Winchester ordinance on blight was revised and published.
We're going to have a lot of blight, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just flabbergasted that anybody would waste their time doing this, because your taxing policy and your education policy is so oppressive that it's going to crush the housing. You'll have blight all over.
Right.
It's not going to be 1 or 2.
Yep. So once again, scenario A, tax rates up 25% across the board, resulting in a 25% increases in cash taxes at the lake. 25% increase in cash taxes for town businesses. I don't think anyone is going to vote to support that. Option B, John pays my taxes for me. He has a mill rate of 40 mills. I don't think anyone downtown is going to support that. Just to put this into perspective, if you actually cut spending by a sufficient amount to make sure that no one got a tax raise, you'd have to cut the town size budget in half. In half. That's how much you've got to cut to get to 0 tax increase. Now, the Marianne's plan, you got to eliminate the town site completely. Close it down. Just close it down. This is crazy. And no one is willing to tell you this.
Now, we've had several scenarios on this show for a long time now on what you can do just to economize, to consolidate finances. I mean, everybody poo-paws that, and they go out and they get a new tax
study.
So, I mean, you look at what happened in New London, okay, and New London is actually consolidating their educational and town finances.
They're trying, although the school board is kicking up hell trying to stop it. But yeah, any town that's really facing the facts, that's really proactive about this, is scrabbling around like crazy looking for efficiencies. Because faced with these sorts of increases, faced with 25% tax increases at a flat spending budget, no town is going to pass a budget. It's just not going to happen. So every town is looking for the cuts. Every town is saying, long term, we know we have to fix the problem. But short term, we got to fix the spending. We know that, we understand that, we're doing it. We can't fix it all at once. We can't cut budgets by 40%. Just not physically possible. Not without a lot of pain and not without a bankruptcy. But we're cutting by 2%, 5%, 6%. We're doing what we can to recognize that there's a problem and to show our citizens we understand and we're beginning to work. The long-term fix is clear. You have to fix the neighborhoods. You're not going to spend $50 million on a new school and fix the situation. Number one, that's a whole lot of extra taxes. And once again, no one ever said that more taxes is the solution to more taxes. But fixing the schools is not the problem for a simple reason. The sort of parents who appreciate a brand new school are precisely the sort of parents who are not going to move to a town where they're going to live next door to squatters. They're not going to parents who are going to move to a town where the storefronts on Main Street are empty. They're not the parents who are going to move to a town where every industrial building has all of their windows broken. To fix a school building is not the strategy for this problem. The strategy for fixing this problem is a massive investment in the downtown neighborhoods through tax incentives to bring back people, to bring back customers for the downtown businesses, to bring back people with disposable income, to halt the value decline downtown and to reverse the value decline, to have values go up, to have properties be saleable, and to bring back a real market downtown.
Yes.
That's the solution.
And it gets right back to the, if you're going to offer that, you have to reduce your revenue outlays now. You have to. I mean, there is no way around it.
Reduce, restructure, reinvest. Everything that current budget is not doing. This is why we said at the outset, we are voting no. The reval is a real issue. It's not just a money issue, it's a livability issue. But we have to recognize that it is a money issue. It will overwhelm the budget process. It will overwhelm everything here in town. You need to understand that you're voting not just on a small tax increase in a budget, but on a monster tax increase at the lake and a huge mill rate increase downtown. And we need to get to the heart of the problem. We need to invest in the downtown neighborhoods. And the only way we can do that is to free up money to invest with. And that money has to be freed up by cutting and restructuring.
Yeah, you have to pull the burden. You have to pull the tax burdens off the properties. You have to make, a viable plan to give tax incentives to people to take multifamily houses and convert them back to single-family homes. $20,000 is not going to do it.
It's not enough. And we need to be in a position where we can encourage businesses to move to this town and developers to move to this town. And the only way we can do that is a rational tax policy based on rational budgets, based on reality, based on a real understanding of what the reval is, what it's a symptom of, what it's a cause of, and what's going to happen if we just sit on our hands and close our eyes and just hope it's all going to be okay. It's not going to be okay, ladies and gentlemen. This is a train wreck.
And it's coming. It's coming right towards you, and you'll see it December 1st.
Yep. With that,
we're going to close. We're going to ask you to vote no
on September
8th, and we'll go from there. We'll have one more show.
We'll see you next week. Good night.